In Ukraine, the hit rate of artificial intelligence-assisted drones has risen from 20% to 80%. For months, Russia had systematically struck Ukrainian cities, energy infrastructure, and civilian facilities using Shahed kamikaze drones, produced cheaply and in large quantities. President Putin's strategy relied on the economic unsustainability for Ukraine to counter these inexpensive drone swarms with costly Patriot and NASAMS missiles. However, Ukraine has inverted this dynamic, employing a method previously unseen globally. On April 23, 2026, Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov publicly announced this new approach. Ukraine has now deployed a novel small-scale air defense system capable of engaging enemy drones from thousands of kilometers away. This makes Ukraine the first nation to systematically implement such a system at scale. Russia's cost advantage was effectively negated overnight, as a system now exists to neutralize inexpensive drones with equally inexpensive countermeasures. The truly revolutionary aspect, however, extends beyond cost. It lies in its operational methodology. Traditionally, drone operators required proximity to the front lines, typically positioned 10 to 50 kilometers behind, controlling their drones via radio signals. This presented two critical vulnerabilities. Operators were susceptible to Russian artillery and drone strikes once detected, and their radio signals could be jammed by Russian electronic warfare systems such as Kasuka, Borisoglebsk, and Zhitel. Ukraine has simultaneously addressed both vulnerabilities. Under the new system, operators remain far from the front lines. Interceptor drones are no longer controlled from forward positions, but can be operated from secure locations in Kyiv, Lviv, or even from outside the country. The link between drone and operator is established through secure data connections, bypassing traditional radio. This renders operators largely immune to Russian electronic warfare effects, ensuring their physical safety and enabling scaled air defense operations independent of frontline geography. This systematic deployment of long-range, remotely operated air defense represents a significant departure from conventional military doctrine. Historically, air defense has been geographically constrained, requiring assets to be close to the protected area. This innovation fundamentally redefines the operational footprint and security profile for critical defense infrastructure. This allows for the simultaneous deployment of a significantly greater number of operators. The Hornet Vision control system, developed by Wild Hornets, exemplifies the pinnacle of this technology. In April 2026, a Ukrainian operator, situated abroad in an apartment or hotel room, successfully controlled a Sting interceptor drone from a distance of 2,000 kilometers during a mission in northern Ukraine. Minister Fedorov characterized this achievement as a new echelon in small-scale air defense. The previous cost imbalance has been entirely reversed by this system. While a Shahed drone typically costs between $20,000 and $50,000, the missiles traditionally employed to intercept them cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. However, the advantages of remote control technology extend beyond mere cost efficiency. Operators are secure, operational range is effectively unlimited, and a multitude of operators can be deployed concurrently. Consequently, the system is affordable, safe, and highly scalable. The Ministry of Defense has articulated extremely ambitious objectives to detect 100% of all enemy air targets and neutralize at least 95% of them. Ukraine is not pursuing these goals in isolation. Through the Brave One Defense Innovation Cluster, more than 10 Ukrainian manufacturers have integrated this remote control technology into their respective systems. The foundational concept was validated 1 year ago and is now in mass production. As Minister Fedorov stated, Ukraine has become the first nation globally to systematically scale the remote control of interceptor drones. The term systematic in this context is crucial. While other nations are experimenting with remote control, none have achieved industrial-scale implementation involving dozens of manufacturers under active combat conditions. The tangible results are already evident on the battlefield. Ukraine has commenced launching P-1 Sun interceptor drones from AN-28 aircraft, signifying that interceptor operations are now conducted from both ground and air platforms. Defense Ministry data indicates that these drones have neutralized over 3,000 Shaheds since the beginning of the year. This figure substantiates that the system is not merely a theoretical construct, but an operational reality, functioning at an industrial scale and safeguarding Ukraine's airspace daily. Ukraine achieved another significant milestone in April 2026, one that may be even more remarkable. On April 19th, a unit from the Unmanned Systems Forces, associated with Ukraine's 412th Nemesis Brigade, executed an operation in the Black Sea. A specialized compartment on an unmanned surface vessel opened, from which a Sting interceptor drone launched and successfully destroyed a Russian-made Shahed-type kamikaze drone in flight. This event constitutes the first instance in military history where an interceptor drone was launched from a naval drone to engage an aerial target. To fully appreciate the import of this operation, Ukraine's naval context must be considered. Its traditional navy is largely defunct, with Russia having seized or sunk most of Ukraine's larger vessels during the initial days of the conflict. However, rather than perceiving this naval deficit as a disadvantage, Ukraine has ingeniously transformed it into a strategic asset. Inexpensive unmanned maritime vehicles have been converted into mobile launch platforms. Consequently, Shahed attacks originating from the Black Sea can now be detected significantly earlier and intercepted at a substantially reduced cost. This innovation addresses a critical vulnerability that conventional air defense systems cannot adequately cover over water. Private sector air defense units are also contributing to this sea-air integration, having successfully intercepted jet engine-powered Shahed variants for the first time using specialized equipment. When these two developments are considered in conjunction, a clear picture emerges. Ukraine has transformed its air defense into a multi-layered system capable of simultaneous operation from land, sea, the front lines, and thousands of kilometers behind them. Russia's Shaheds are now being targeted from every vector and at every range. While these two firsts are compelling in themselves, Ukraine's advancements in unmanned systems are not confined to air defense. A revolution of comparable magnitude is also unfolding on the ground. In April 2026, another historic precedent was set. For the first time, Ukraine successfully captured a Russian position utilizing only ground robots and aerial drones, without deploying a single infantry soldier. Russian personnel reportedly surrendered to these machines. President Zelensky characterized this moment as a first in the history of warfare, a description that appears accurate. The successful capture of a fortified position without human combatants marks a profound shift in ground warfare tactics. This event challenges the long-held military axiom that only boots on the ground can secure territory, potentially ushering in an era where human risk in direct assault operations is dramatically reduced or even eliminated. This achievement transcends mere technological advancement. It validates unmanned assault operations on the battlefield for the first time, supported by a substantial underlying infrastructure. In March 2026, ground robots alone executed over 9,000 logistics and evacuation missions. These robots are responsible for evacuating wounded soldiers, transporting ammunition, and deploying mines, effectively saving a soldier's life with each mission. A total of 25,000 ground robots have been ordered, with new generation models such as Termit and Nurse TB now in mass production. Systems for logistical transport, mine laying, and follow-me tracking are operational at every point along the front line. Ukraine's stated objective is clear: to transition 100% of frontline logistics to robotic systems, a goal incrementally advanced each month. Furthermore, the Universal Ground Control Station system enables the management of multiple robot types from a single central hub. This means an operator can control both a ground robot and an aerial drone from the same console. Ground robots, remotely controlled interceptors, and aerial vehicles launched from naval drones all represent distinct facets of a singular vision. This vision was encapsulated by Ukraine's former commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny, in his Chatham House speech. Robotization. Zaluzhny explicitly stated that modern warfare has evolved beyond traditional weaponry and outdated tactics, asserting that the future rests with autonomous robotic systems requiring no human intervention. In essence, the need is shifting from traditional treaties to technological alliances. Ukraine is not merely articulating this vision, it is actively transforming it into battlefield reality daily. Crucially, an unseen force underpins and enables this robotization, a force that may constitute Ukraine's most significant strategic advantage. In an unprecedented move, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has commenced sharing millions of drone flight videos and extensive battlefield data via a controlled platform. These are not generic images. They comprise authentic combat footage documenting attacks on soldiers and vehicles, a driver's evasive maneuvers against a drone, the thermal signatures of explosions, and air defense responses under duress. Artificial intelligence cannot be developed through theory or simulation. It necessitates real combat data. Ukraine is currently the sole nation possessing data of this magnitude derived from the first continuous drone war in history. The Ministry of Defense's Artificial Intelligence Center, A1, is leveraging this data to train autonomous targeting systems. The Vega vehicle, an integral component of the Delta Battlefield Management Platform, can automatically detect enemy targets within drone video feeds. Utilized in approximately 50,000 streams, it assists in identifying thousands of potential targets monthly. As a direct consequence, the hit rate of AI-assisted drones has surged from 20% to 80%. 4 out of every 5 drones now successfully strike their target, a rate that continues to increase incrementally each month as the system is continuously fed new data. Ukraine is not solely utilizing this data for its own benefit. By sharing it with allies, it is contributing to the global advancement of defense AI. As Minister Fedorov articulated, Ukraine possesses a unique spectrum of battlefield data, unparalleled worldwide. This data advantage may prove to be Ukraine's most enduring strategic asset. While weapons become obsolete and ammunition depletes, data accumulates and appreciates in value daily. This unique data repository from continuous large-scale drone warfare provides an unparalleled training ground for AI, a resource no other nation currently possesses. It fundamentally alters the traditional power dynamics of military research and development, shifting the advantage to those with real-world combat data rather than just theoretical capabilities. The most advanced application of this data involves AI-supported drone swarm tactics. Ukraine is actively employing AI-based swarm tactics in conjunction with the production of millions of FPV drones. Dozens of drones simultaneously launch coordinated mass attacks on Russian air defense and radar systems. Traditional defensive lines are designed to counter individual drones, but blocking dozens of autonomous drones arriving concurrently presents a far greater challenge. This swarm intelligence effectively circumvents Russia's electronic warfare measures, as surviving drones automatically adjust their routes if one is intercepted. The United Kingdom's military research unit describes this technology as the future of allied drone warfare. Ukraine is currently the only nation testing and developing this future under live combat conditions. What do these technological advancements signify for Russia? They indicate a widening disadvantage with each passing month. Remotely controlled interceptors are rendering Russia's previously most effective countermeasure, its electronic warfare systems, largely ineffectual. Russian Shahed and Lancet drones can now be detected and destroyed with greater ease, even deep within Ukrainian territory. Interceptors launched from naval drones have further escalated the risks associated with Russian air operations in the Black Sea, while AI-trained autonomous systems are incrementally diminishing the effectiveness of Russia's strategy of overwhelming with sheer numbers of drones. Can Russia mount an adequate response? While it possesses the technical capability, its adaptation speed is demonstrably slow. Current electronic warfare systems, such as Kasuka and Borisoglepsk, remain effective against traditional radio signal-based drones, but exhibit limited efficacy against fiber optic and hybrid data link systems. Russia is attempting to develop its own long-range interceptor drones, with work underway on jet-powered Zurian variants. However, these have not yet achieved the scale demonstrated by Ukraine. According to a Forbes report, Russia intends to establish long-range drone control stations in Belarus, an emulation of Ukraine's remote control concept, but lagging by several years. President Putin does have options, including AI-assisted evasion maneuvers and the integration of autonomous navigation, which could potentially challenge Ukraine's interceptors. Nevertheless, due to constraints in production scale and supply chain issues, Russia cannot respond with the same alacrity as Ukraine. This is where a critical divergence emerges. Russia's latest anti-drone system, named Krona, remains in its testing phase. A report by Euromaidan Press suggests that Ukraine and its allies must accelerate their efforts in this domain. Even Russia itself acknowledges the inadequacy of its current system. In contrast, Ukraine's defense ecosystem is propelled by its private sector. Over 280 companies within the Brave One cluster are developing more than 550 active solutions. These companies foster competition, build upon each other's innovations, and generate a new global first almost monthly. Russia, conversely, endeavors to maintain this pace using a centralized and cumbersome defense industry. Soviet-era bureaucracy impedes innovation, sanctions restrict supply chains, and talented engineers are reportedly leaving the country. Consequently, while Russia can technically respond, it currently lags significantly behind Ukraine's advancements. President Putin's primary challenge lies in his inability to match the pace of both production and innovation, a gap that continues to widen each passing month. The most tangible manifestation of this technological race is visible daily on Ukraine's front lines. Nearly every road leading to the city of Izium in the Kharkiv region is now covered with long white mesh strips. At first glance, these nets, secured to wooden poles, appear to be a low-tech solution, yet the reality they address is stark. Russian FPV drones can now reach areas up to 30 kilometers behind the front lines, regions previously considered secure. Danger FPV threat warning signs are being erected along roadsides, and drone detectors are carried on every outing. In the Kherson region, Russian forces are employing these drones against civilians, utilizing a tactic locals describe as a human safari, hunting down individuals moving through the city with explosive-laden drones. Such attacks occur hundreds of times daily, with drones flying in groups to track people. Sometimes these nets represent the final defense saving civilians from death. Ukraine's comprehensive response integrates both high and low technology. On one hand, there are interceptor drones controlled from thousands of kilometers away, AI-powered autonomous systems, and aerial vehicles launched from naval drones. On the other, there are physical nets covering roads, supermarkets, and cafes. Current plans project the deployment of 4,000 kilometers of these nets by the end of 2026. From a broader perspective, April 2026 signifies a pivotal moment for Ukraine. Underlying these advancements are artificial intelligence systems trained on millions of hours of authentic combat data, supported by over 280 defense companies, and an innovation cycle that accelerates monthly. The cumulative effect of these developments transcends individual systems or weapons. Ukraine has fundamentally redefined the nature of warfare itself. The critical inquiry is no longer about numerical troop superiority, but rather about the speed of adaptation. The answer to that question becomes progressively clearer each month. Ukraine is now the first nation globally capable of simultaneously scaling unmanned and remotely controlled systems across air, sea, land, and logistics domains. This development holds relevance beyond the immediate conflict between Ukraine and Russia. All militaries, including those of NATO, are closely observing this technology, as the systems Ukraine is validating on the battlefield are establishing the benchmarks for future conflicts. Traditional air defense doctrines were predicated on the frontline operator paradigm. This new system has fundamentally disrupted that. Large and costly warships were once synonymous with naval power, but Ukraine has challenged that assumption with its naval drones. Ground assaults historically relied on infantry soldiers, a rule Ukraine has also altered by capturing positions with robotic units. Ukraine also possesses substantial potential to export these technologies to its allies. Small air defense systems and AI models, rigorously trained on combat data, could significantly reconfigure the global arms market. Minister Fedorov's pronouncements define the character of future wars. The future of conflict belongs to autonomous systems, and Ukraine is actively shaping that future now. Russia, conversely, continues to operate under the precepts of past warfare, consequently falling further behind with each passing month. Weaponry has evolved, tactics have transformed, and the battlefield itself has changed. The only constant remains Ukraine's rapid pace of adaptation and Russia's persistent inability to match it.